Welcome to another episode of Everyday Amazing. I am your host, Guy Alton. Tonight we have another amazing guest. We're talking Hall of Fame wrestling champion, Sara McMann. Don't go anywhere.
Everyday Amazing with Sky Alton. Everyday Amazing. Everyday Amazing with Sky Alton. Everyday Amazing. Everyday Amazing with Sky Alton.
Welcome back to the show. As always, I'm striving to bring you guys amazing guests every other week, and I think I do a good job of it. And tonight, I think I did a really good job. I think I might have outdone myself tonight. Tonight, I have Sara McMann. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. First off, thank you for coming. It's such an honor to have you on the show. And before we get into our interview, I just want to kind of list off some of your accolades, just because I want the people to really get an idea of like who you are and how accomplished you are. Olympic Silver Medalist, 6-time U.S. national titles, and 2-time Pan American Game gold medalist. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, we're going to be talking wrestling, UFC, and coaching. But first off, before we talk those things, let's just walk me through how you started and how you got into wrestling.
Okay. So when I was younger, my older brother wrestled, and I was around it since I was like 3 years old, and I just never had any interest in doing any sports. And then when I was 14, I was like, oh man, I think I should do a sport. And then I probably because I grew up around it, but I was like, I should wrestle. And this is in North Carolina, and I was the only girl in the entire state that wrestled. And I come from a long line of strong-willed Italian women.
Okay.
And so they were like, well, girls can't wrestle, And I was like, what do you mean? We have like 2 arms and 2 legs. Of course we can wrestle. And so, but I was extremely stubborn. The more they were like, you can't do this. Oh yeah, I was like, I will die in this dressing room. I was like, no way.
So talk to me about how that first day went when you showed up for tryouts for the wrestling team. Like, what did your brother say when you told him, listen, I'm going to wrestle?
So he thought it was great. He was really supportive. My family was pretty supportive. They were worried about me getting hurt because, that's when puberty happens. Boys become a lot stronger, with testosterone and everything. And so they just were a little worried about me getting injured. But they were fully supportive of me doing the sport. But the head coach, which he turned out to be like one of my biggest supporters, flew to the Olympics to support me. Like, he was terrified because he just didn't know how to teach a female wrestling moves. And he didn't know why I was there, if I was trying to grab attention or whatever. And some people thought like, oh, you're trying to date the boys. I'm like, seriously, there's far easier ways than joining a wrestling team. Yeah. Exactly. I'm like, no makeup, completely drenched in sweat with sweatpants on. I'm like, this is not hot. Like, this is not how you get a guy. So, he was nervous and I was like really fiercely determined. And he made our preseason, like, I now know, like, after that season, it was the hardest preseason our team had ever had in the history of it. So many guys quit because it was so hard, and he was trying to, like, weed me out.
Push you out.
But when I came, I had never done any other sports. And so the conditioning was just, I was dying. I was so sore. I was, like, on the verge of puking, like, but I wouldn't go away.
So what kept you going then? At some point, I got to imagine you thought to yourself, why am I doing this?
Yeah. So sheer stubbornness at first. And then, like, as I started to learn some of the moves, because I had watched it for so long, I had been around it so much growing up, I started to pick up the moves faster than the boys. And even though some of them were stronger, I was more technical. Like, I really picked it up and I took to it. Like, I liked the aggression. I liked the control and the dominating. And even, it doesn't matter how many times you beat me, I was like, the next time I was super delusional. I'm like, I'm going to get it this time, like I was really believed in myself. And that went so far in my entire career.
So you found out that you actually have talent for it, you didn't realize it, but as you start to pick things up. Now, did your peers start to realize? At what point did they start to realize, like, hey, Sara actually is she's really good. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like, and what was that like? Did you start to like get the respect? Because I gotta imagine growing the team, everyone's kind of like, oh, you know, why she's here, right?
Yeah.
But then as you start to get it,
Mhm.
then maybe you're like, hey, good job, man. You know.
So this started from the top down. So once my coach saw how hard I was willing to work, and that is like working extremely hard and facing up to challenges, really hard challenges, people who can beat you. That is your currency in all sports, but certainly wrestling. So when he saw that I was doing all the push-ups and I was doing it in perfect form, that I knew everything that I did was being watched, and so I did everything right. And so eventually my coach was like, "Dang, girls doing better push-ups than you," you know, like, and so they started to realize that he was praising me and that he was seeing the things that I was doing right. And also, like I said, if you have better technique than some of the younger guys that aren't picking up as quick, you're going to win. You're going to get moves on people. And so, like, I just slowly won him over. And then some of the more senior guys, like, I just slowly won everybody over. And by my next year, I was like fully part of the team, totally accepted. And they're like, you know, like they didn't continue on with the whole, like, well, you'll probably quit, you know?
Right. Sounds like a regular like Ruby story. Ruby,
Yeah,
football
yeah.
player or whatever, you know?
But you know, truthfully, I don't think mine was so different than a lot of the freshman guys. A lot of the freshman guys in wrestling or any sport, they get not like bad haze, but they get picked on, they get pushed around, and they get, you know, like they're tested for not just like their physical toughness on the you know, field or on the mat, but their mental toughness, how much, you know, ridicule and, you know, can they endure. And so for me, when they would dish it out to me, you know, I was just a sassy, like I said, a little Italian girl. I'd give it right back to them. It didn't even faze me.
That's one thing I've always heard about wrestling is the mentality and work ethic you get from wrestling. I hear it's like no other sport or discipline, right? It's like wrestlers are very, very tough and mentally, like, they just won't quit.
So, I mean, some people do end up quitting wrestling, but the people who stay and stay through their high school season, their college season, and continue on, like, it does take a certain mentality. And it's not like you have it or you don't, but it's like you may not have it every single day and every single moment, but you're always ready to rally the troops again. So I did, and this is like a little maybe like physiological evidence behind it, but they do studies on all different types of sports, and wrestlers would get to fatigue and their like lactate threshold, you know, like where their body was producing a lot of lactate and it was in their muscles, and they would work harder and longer than most sports in that. And because we're like, yeah, we have a coach like barking down our necks, you know, and then even we've done all these drills, we've done all this wrestling, then we have conditioning, you know, and it's almost every day. And so it creates like a part of you that just, you don't quit. You just don't. You want to, like everybody else that's human, you want to, you know, but like it's always, they're pushing our mental breaking point further and further out.
That's amazing. So, okay, you're in wrestling, you find out you have a talent for it, and you continue to wrestle, and at some point, wrestling is going to be, and the female wrestling is going to be in Athens, the Olympic Games. What was that like, you know, being on that team and just knowing that you're going to be one of the first women to go and wrestle? You know?
So it was pretty surreal. I think at the time I was really like, I was one of those people that's like, well, I expected to be on the team. And I already had these goals. Well, of course I'm going to get these goals. And I'm like, not realizing that everybody had those goals, and that some really talented people didn't make the team, and they, you know, like all of that work and stuff like that. And so like, it wasn't more until after the games that I really was kind of like amazed and like wowed by the whole experience. I did have one time that I kind of broke composure a little bit. But when we left for the Olympics, I had like blinders on the entire time. I didn't want to get swept away by the excitement of just being there. I had goals. So I was like, no, I'm staying focused, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get what I came here for, you know? But then the opening ceremonies, like thankfully it was earlier in the games and we were later. And it was, you walk out there and there are people just screaming and like waving the American flag and they're crying. And it's like, oh, this is so big. This is so big. And I am here. And this is like this moment in my life. Like, and that's when it kind of like, and then I was like, okay, pull it together, like get it back together,
Right.
Stay focused, get back on track, but it just like hit me how big and like how life-changing what I was doing was. So
Now, talk to me about like your first match in the Olympics. Were there ever, now at this point, obviously you have been in probably many competitions. So to you, you know what to do, right? You've trained for this,
Yeah.
but it's still,
oh, the pressure,
Yeah,
it's crushing.
getting up
It's
on
like-
that, getting up on that center stage and going
Yeah.
against someone from a different, country, and they have that pride on the line. You have your pride on the line, and
So I had a brutal, they have blind draws.
Mhm.
And my first draw was a girl who had beaten me before, and she beat me in 2001. She beat me pretty soundly.
Wow.
She beat me, and it didn't even look like she was breaking a sweat. It was a girl from China.
Okay.
She was very good and very strong. And that was like among my first times going to the World Championships. So I still had room, I had to grow. But she was a 2-time world champ and I wasn't a world champ. And man, to get her right out of the gates, like I was going through my warm up and I'm, I do my self-talk and believing in myself. And then I like go to the bathroom and I like see my hands shaking and I'm like, oh, maybe you're a little nervous. Maybe you're just a little nervous for this. But I went out there and I was able to put the first points on the board. And then when we got back up, like from parterre position on the ground, oh, she came after me. And she was I'm a very strong athlete, but she was like on another level. And I was able to just counter her instinctually. And I put her on her back and pinned her. And that was like the most amazing moment. I was like, it was.
Now that goes back to how technical you talked about, like in the beginning, right? Because someone can be more powerful than you, but you're more technical. Now I think we have a few pictures that we're gonna bring up and have you take a look at, and we'll have you. What was this one of those pins, type pins that you talked about, or is it
So
different?
this is parterre. This is wrestling on the ground. I think it's French for really like on the ground.
Okay.
And this is, I'm trying to turn the person and expose their back or get a pin. This is, I believe it was at a world championship, but it could have been at a World Cup.
Okay. And this was.
That was actually, that's for Sports Illustrated.
Okay.
That's a
Sports
photo shoot.
Illustrated.
Yes.
Um.
Oh, that's
What-
MMA.
MMA. We'll get to the MMA part a little bit later. So okay, you end up beating this person who beat you before, and and the person they had world titles. You didn't have world titles. Talk to me that moment, right when you walk off the mat. You just won that. Like, what did that feel like?
So one thing that was like really tough about that is that because I had beat her and my emotions got so high, and I already felt very accomplished, it was extremely hard to like lower my, like all of my physical, reactions to that, my mentality, everything was just like buzzing, and I felt amazing. And then I got like an adrenaline drop. So it was really hard to like get things going like the next round because I still had a whole tournament to do.
Right.
It was a 2-day tournament, thankfully, but like still like it took so much out of me, and I was so elated to beat her because she was like, she very well could have won the Olympics. That's how good she was. Like she was one of the top people.
Was this Cowrie?
No.
Okay,
So this was, I think it was Lily Meng.
Okay.
But yeah, so I wrestled different Chinese wrestlers throughout the years. So I don't remember exactly who it was, but I'm pretty sure that was her. And Kaori Icho I had in the finals.
Okay. We're going to talk more about that, but we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Hey, this is Jay King, and you're watching Everyday Amazing with Sky Alton.
Everyday amazing with Sky Alton.
Welcome back to the show. I am still here with the amazing Sara McMann. And before we went to break, we were talking about your first Olympic appearance, and we touched on something that I kind of want to talk more about, the highs and lows of, let's say, competing. Mm-hmm. And I've heard that most sports go through this. You know, when you're winning, and not just sports, I want to say anyone who's extremely talented in their field and gets a lot of like recognition and praise, it feels great. Like I've heard this from musicians, like when you're, you know, performing in front of, you know, 20,000 people, it's amazing and you feel so great. But then after, right, and you're done, the coming down from that sometimes can make you feel kind of just, I don't know, you don't feel as happy as you think you should. Yeah. Because you just did this great performance, people love you, and you killed it. People had a really good experience, but now you just kind of feel kind of like empty.
So I have a theory about that, because for me, what I ended up terming it is like my post-competition depression. It wasn't like a real depression, but every time after I went to a really major event, I think that I had a way higher adrenaline response or serotonin or, you know, norepinephrine, whatever chemicals and hormones my body was releasing was just outside of my norm. So when I came home and I went back to my normal living and it was back to work, it felt even lower in comparison. So I would just give myself a week and be like, okay, you're just gonna, like, you know, down regulate. You're gonna go do relaxing things. Everything's gonna be low and it's gonna be quiet, because otherwise I thought something was wrong with me. I'm like, why, how could I go win this and then feel so, yeah, I just feel like, now what? I'm lost, you know, like now what do I do?
Right. It's a real thing from a lot of people who experience it. I've heard of NBA players, they talk about it after winning championships, and then, you know, you feel great, but then like when you're in off season, it's like, what now? You know,
and it's work.
I think Jordan, that's why he would go practice so hard or whatever, because he wanted, he was preparing to feel that again. So he's like, listen, I got to stay ahead of the competition, you know. Different people cope with it with different ways, but I like your method of, you know, like a process. Yes,
I schedule it in. I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get away and I'm gonna do things that I don't normally get to do because I'm training on the time and I'm tired. And like, it was at the point, like training for the Olympics, that I wouldn't even go out in the sun during the day because it would kind of sap my energy a little bit. I wouldn't be out for like, oh, everyone's gonna go swimming between practices. I'm like, no, I go out in the swim, I'm gonna be tired, then I won't have a good practice. And you do that enough times and you're average. You're not elite. Everything has to be you as close to 100% every day that you can. So then I'm like, I can be a normal person and I can eat Doritos if I want to. You know, I can like make all the bad choices. Like, you know, I can stay up late till 3 a.m. watching movies if I want to, because you can't do that as an elite athlete. So I try to like indulge in things and be like, okay, now it's back to work.
Right. Okay, we have mentioned fellow wrestler competitor Kaori Icho.
Yes.
And she is regarded by some as one of the greatest female wrestlers ever, right? And very few people have wins over her, and you have a win over her.
Yes.
Tell me about that, like that match, and it's just, how does that make you feel? Like, you know, knowing that, listen, I have one. You know?
So I have a ton of respect for her. She is the greatest wrestler. She's a 4-time Olympic champion, and nobody has reached that. And she won almost every world championships that she went to. I believe she might have won them all. Yeah. And that was, I mean, a huge accomplishment. I was always like neck and neck with her. And so beating her that time, you know, like I needed that because I really believed that I could beat her. And proving it to myself, at least the one time, was like, okay, you're not totally delusional. You do have these capabilities. And if you did it then, you can do it again. And it's what kept me like constantly chasing that. Because otherwise, I think if I gotten beat by her every time, I would have felt a little more defeated, you know? And so, but I wasn't. I was like, no, I'm in this. I'm going to do it. So.
It almost sounds similar to the Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield story. Evander Holyfield was always kind of like chasing Tyson in a sense, and he knew that he can beat him.
Yeah.
He just, he just needed the opportunity, but he had a great respect for him. He still should have a great respect for
absolutely.
him. And so I
Yeah.
kind of like the way you talked about her just now. Okay, so I kind of want to get into your MMA career, and my first question is, why make the switch to MMA? Why not stay in wrestling? Like, what was the thought process behind that?
So I had like a lot of different life events, and then I think also when you get to the top of a sport, you're really working out for hours upon hours to make the smallest adjustments. There's not really a lot of huge gains that you make after that point. You are doing it for shaving a millisecond off of a technique or refining it just a little bit. And I think that I just wanted something new. And I also wanted to be a mom. So I was like, after that 2008 quad, I was like, I'm gonna have a baby right now while I still can.
Right.
And then afterwards I was like, I think I want to do jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is like wrestling's like second cousin. It's like close enough to it that you'll have a lot of similarities, but it's different enough that I'm really going to be learning a new sport. And then one of my friends was like, why don't you try striking too and do MMA? And this was just like the beginning when I saw like Cyborg versus Gina Carano. So like women's MMA was just barely getting on the scene then. Everything else was like, you're like the sideshow at a little rinky-dink show. It wasn't progressing very well, and they kind of thrust it into the spotlight. And then I was like, I tried striking, and I was like, man, this is pretty awesome. Like,
Let's talk about striking.
yeah. I don't love getting hit. I don't think the MMA fighters love getting hit. We just don't hate it enough to not want to do it to you. We're like, I will accept that I'm probably going to get hit, but I'm going to hit you.
So did you talk to me about your first actual? Now you learned striking, right? You're practicing, but that first actual MMA fight, right? What was the feels like? How did it feel? Did you ever get in, like, when they get in the cage and they close that cage and you're like, wait a minute, do I still want to do this? At that point it's kind of too late, but just tell me a little about how that felt.
The vast majority of my career, the day of the fight, and no matter how much my nerves were, you always have nerves. That person's trying to hurt you. So everyone experiences a degree of nerves. But I always wanted to be there. But I knew that I wanted to retire because my last fight, I knew I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, and not only do I not want to do this fight, I don't want to fight anymore at all. Like, I think that whatever fire was inside of me, I think it's finally out. And I was okay with that. But I was like, I'm not going to pull out of the fight because I just feel like that, I don't know, like I have more character than that. So I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna finish as strong as I possibly can, but I'm gonna know that like some people will ride it till the wheels fall off. That's when your body falls apart. But when you don't wanna be there, it's more like the car's still coasting, but the driver jumped out and it's just gonna keep coasting, until it like stops. But so my drive wasn't there and my will to win. But I wouldn't change even that experience. But I'm happy that I don't want to do it anymore, because I would have been probably really devastated if I still wanted to do it, but my body was like, we can't.
And we've seen that, where people want to do something so bad, and you can, as fans, we can see that
you just don't have it anymore.
And no matter what you say to that person, they just don't see it that way, and so well,
they've made a career out of believing in themselves. So they're not going to listen to that because they haven't listened to all kinds of people saying you can't, you're not going to ever, you've had to shut that out your whole life. And those MMA fans, like, have you read the comments on a lot of their posts? It's just terrible.
I try not to,
No, I get angry at total strangers saying things about other people. I'm like, what are you talking about?
I try not to describe myself as an MMA fan because I just don't want to be associated with that class of people, just because, they forget that people are human. And I heard a fighter once say, I think it was Anthony Rubble, when he retired, I think that was his name. He basically said that, like, it's not easy to do what we do, and I don't like hurting people, and I know the fans like seeing knockouts and stuff like that or whatever, but I thought it was one of the most honest things I had seen from a fighter. You know, he was saying like, listen, like I'm gonna be honest with you, like I don't love this anymore. You know, I don't want to go out and hurt people. You know, so I think I'm ready to do something else. You know,
I think a lot of fighters, we want to go out and compete. We want to showcase our skills. We want that one-on-one combat, and we want to get the glory and the wins that come along with that. But I would prefer that people tap and I didn't injure them. I would prefer that like any kind of striking or whatever, like, and this is kind of weird too because it's the girls, but I was always like, I want to like, I don't care if I bruise them or whatever, you know, if their nose is bleeding a little bit, but I don't want to like create a deep cut somewhere on it because it's still a female's face, you know. So it's like we all sign that waiver. Of course, it's a part of it, but like I would rather win in a way that didn't do permanent damage to any of my bumps and bruises. You're fine. You know, that'll heal in a week. You're fine.
But you want them to still be able to listen. I look good. I'm putting on some makeup or whatever over this bruise and go out and I get it.
And be proud of what they stepped out there. I have more respect for them than I do any of the people who are commenting and saying stuff because they're getting out there and they're putting their money where their mouth is. And like, I have more respect for all of the people I've competed against because they showed up and they gave it their best than, you know, anybody who was on the sidelines saying they should have done this instead of that, you know.
Well, Sara, I think that you're an amazing person and what you have accomplished is like, I don't have words for it. And that's why I wanted someone like you to come on the show and share your story, because I'm pretty sure when people see this, they are going to think what I think, that, you know, you're just not only amazing athlete, but just a genuine good person. You know?
I appreciate that.
And I like that. And so obviously now you have a gym and you coach, and so I just want you to tell the people where you coach at, where they can check your gym out, so then that way they know and maybe they'll come check you out.
So we're Precision Academy in Citrus Heights. We have Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai. I do wrestling for BJJ. And it's just a great little community of friends and athletes that, I mean, we have people who never ever want to compete. We have young kids, or we have up to the highest level, world champion athletes in our gym. So it's really like, you can come in, you can go as frequently as you want. It's just like everybody is accepted for whatever they want their Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai journey to be.
Awesome, amazing. Well, thank you again for coming on the show. And I want to thank all my viewers out there. This has been another great episode. I hope everyone out there enjoys, and stay tuned for the next one. I'll see you next time.
Every day amazing. Every day amazing. Every day amazing. With Sky Alton. Every day amazing. Every day amazing. With Sky Alton.